The poem as a sword. How Somali Gabay shaped a nation. Introduction. The power of a spoken word. Imagine a world where a poem, not a newspaper headline or a legal document, could declare war. Imagine a courtroom where the final verdict is delivered in verse, or a new nation is united not by a constitution, but by a powerful, alliterative chant. This was the world of the Somali people, and its most powerful tool was the Gabay. In short, a Gabay is an intricate alternative poem that served as the press, parliament, and history book for Somali nomads. In a society built on oral tradition, this art form was the primary medium for news, law, and culture. This narrative will explore the real-world power of the Gabay, showing how it was used to mobilize armies, end wars, and change the very fabric of society. The blueprint of power. What makes a Gabay work? The Gabay's immense influence came from a structure perfectly engineered for a nomadic society. Its features made it memorable, authoritative, and deeply communal. The unforgettable structure. Alliteration, the glue. The core rule is alliteration. A specific consonant or vowel sound must be repeated in each line, acting as a rhythmic anchor and powerful mnemonic device. This creates a drum-like echo that locks long, complex poems into memory, making them easy to transmit accurately across vast distance without writing. Rhythm, the camel's pace. A canonical Gabay line contains 14 to 16 syllables, a cadence that matches the exact rhythm of a camel's stride. This brilliant fusion of art and environment allowed poets to compose and recite their work for hours during long caravan journeys, turning travel time into a mobile university. Performance, the public debate. A Gabay was never a solo act. It was a live public event, much like a traditional Kenyan council baraza. The poet would deliver the verse while a chorus and members of the clan echoed key lines. This call and response format transformed the poem into a shared community experience and a binding public agreement. Why it mattered. In a land without widespread writing, radio, or formal government buildings, these features were not merely artistic. They made the Gabay the most trusted and durable technology for recording history, delivering laws, and shaping public opinions. It was the hard drive of the community's memory, ensuring that legal precedents and political treaties would survive for generations. This system demonstrates a profound truth. A society's most critical infrastructure, its laws, its history, its public square, need not be built of stone and steel, but can be woven from the fabric of language itself. But this intricate architecture of memory was not just a library, it was an arsenal. In the hands of a master, the Gabay could become a declaration of war as binding as any government decree. The Gabay as a weapon, a call to arms. The Gabay wasn't just for recounting history, it was for making it. In times of conflict, a poet could unleash a Gabay with the force of a military command. The poem that declared war. In the early 90s, the poet and leader Sayyid Muhammad Abdullah Hassan sought to unite northern Somali clans against colonial forces. To do this, he unleashed a torrent of Gabay that swept across the plains like a brush fire, carrying embers of rebellion from clan to clan. His 1905 poem, The Bahuan specifically denounced the scorched earth tactics of the Ethiopian army, serving as a powerful call to arms. These poems were the Somali equivalent of Kenya's Mau Mau song, not just art, but tools of national mobilization. So profound was its impact that the poem is still quoted in Ogaden border talks today, a living testament to its enduring authority. When a verse becomes law, the power of such a poem was not merely symbolic. This was a mere poetic license. Under the authority of Hair, customary law, the Dagal Gabay carried the full weight of a legal proceeding. A Dagal Gabay war poem may legally constitute for a formal declaration of hostilities. The composition and public performance of the poem was in itself an official act of war. The verse was the verdict. Once spoken and accepted by the community, the path to conflict was irrevocably set. Yet, just as a Gabay could ignite a conflict, it also possessed the unique authority to extinguish the flames of war and deliver a lasting peace. The Gabay as a judge, making peace and settling feuds. The same poetic authority used to start wars was a vital tool for diplomacy and law. A well-crafted Gabay could end dispute that swords and spears could not, its power rooted in the binding force of hair. Two paths to peace. The conflict, the poetic solution. A 7-year clan war, 19th century. A bloody long-running feud between clans had exhausted both sides, with no end in sight, rewriting history. A single Gabay was composed that masterfully reframed the clan history to share both blame and pride, creating a new shared narrative that allowed both sides to stand down without losing face. This enforced the legal concept of hair through art. A modern ceasefire, 1991. Following a civil conflict, 400 armed fighters from the Somali National Movement, SNM, refused to stand down in the city of Berbera. A direct appeal. The revered poetic diplomat Abwan Mohammed Ibrahim Warsame Hadrawi stood before the soldiers and recited his 56-line Gabay Saharlai. His words carried such authority that they successfully convinced all 400 fighters to accept a ceasefire. The price of blood paid in verse. The Gabay's legal function extended to criminal justice. A special form, the Dig Gabay blood compensation poem, could be used to settle feuds involving death. This poem would legally set the dia blood price, the specific payment in livestock or goods required to be paid to the victim's family. Under the authority of Hair, this poetic verdict was as binding as any modern court order. While men wielded the Gabay in the public arena of war and law, women commanded their own poetic forms to negotiate the very foundations of society itself. Hidden power. How women wielded verse for social change. Women's poetry was a critical force in Somali society, operating as a tool for influence, negotiation, and education in spheres often inaccessible to men. The Burambur, songs of social pressure. The Burambur is a poetic form composed and performed by women. It could be used to praise leaders, but it was also a sharp-edged tool for satire and social pressure. In one famous example from the 1920s, women composed a Burambur that publicly mocked greedy uncles who were making excessive dowry demands. The song's popularity and the public shame it generated successfully forced the men to lower the bride price, demonstrating a clear case of using art for social and economic leverage. Lullabies that teach diplomacy. The education began in the cradle. Lullabies sung to young girls were intricate lessons disguised as song, embedding complex clan genealogies and key diplomatic phrases into their memories. A simple bedtime song was thus a training ground, preparing future generations of women to be the community's peacemakers and social anchors by equipping them with the deep historical and linguistic knowledge needed to mediate disputes. This tradition of poetry as a living tool for social negotiation has not faded with time. Instead, it has adapted, finding new life in new technologies and new cities. Conclusion: from camel caravan to TikTok. The Gabay is not a relic of the past. Today, in neighborhoods like Eastleigh, in Nairobi, young poets compress the ancient form into powerful 60-second videos for phones. They maintain the core rule of alliteration, but infuse their verses with Sheng and Somali slang. Kenyan artists then remix these clips with gangtone beats, proving the form is now a vibrant shared urban heritage. Parliament in verse. Enduring insights. The story of the Gabay offers timeless lessons on the power of art to shape a society. Parliament without walls. It proves that laws, political debate, and national governance do not require buildings. They can thrive within powerful oral art forms. Living justice. This poetic tradition is not just a historical curiosity. As the 1991 ceasefire shows, it can still be used to resolve real-world conflicts and deliver legally binding judgments. Hidden influence. It reveals how women have historically used their own artistic forms to exercise power, negotiate policy, and shape social norms from the ground up. Far from disappearing, the art form is alive and evolving, finding a new home and a new multicultural expression in modern cities like Nairobi. From the camel's stride to the smartphone scroll, the Gabay endures, a powerful testament to the fact that in the Horn of Africa, a poem was not just words, it was the world. I hope this explains a little bit about Gabay and why Somalis are called the people from the land of poets.